The news has been out for a few days now, but the Mike Tyson-Jake Paul fight has been officially postponed until further notice. Tyson got a medical update after the ulcer flare-up, and essentially he's not cleared to fight or do any hard sparring for a while, so the Jake Paul bout on Netflix had to be shelved as a result. Regardless of who would have won the fight, Mike Tyson vs Jake Paul being on a massive platform such as Netflix would have potentially been a very important move in the business of boxing. DAZN, ESPN, Sky Sports, etc. are the main broadcasters for boxing. But with a powerhouse like Netflix getting involved in the combat sports world, who knows what that could have led to. I mean, all the officials said that the fight was just postponed, but if Mike Tyson is having medical issues a couple months away from the original fight date, it's more than likely not a good idea for him to fight at all, and it should be cancelled. And it very much might be. I feel bad for the undercard most. Amanda Serrano and Katie Taylor deserve another big payday after being major champions of women's boxing and true pioneers of the sport. I would have loved to see Darren Till return to combat sports after having a pretty unfortunate run in the UFC as of late. The Mike Tyson vs Jake Paul card was absolutely stacked with talent, and it's a shame that all of the excellent matchmaking has more or less gone to waste. The fallout of Jake Paul vs Mike Tyson has also led to new rumblings and renegotiations of KSI vs Jake Paul. This is the YouTube boxing version of Anthony Joshua vs Tyson Fury, and both fights are never going to happen, it seems like. After the Mike Tyson fight couldn't continue as planned, Jake Paul asked KSI to be his replacement at 200 pounds. Now, many people have said that the weight has been the biggest factor as to why the KSI-Jake fight has not been made recently. The weight difference between KSI and Jake Paul was brought up multiple times in 2023, and don't get me wrong, it's an important point of negotiation, but I think the explanation as to why the fight has not happened is much more simple than that. I'll get to that point later. So KSI rejects Jake Paul's offer to fight him on the Netflix card in July, and he suggests December as a new date. This is because KSI has a fight lined up in August, with all signs pointing to the opponent being Amir fucking Khan. That is insane, by the way, and I still can't get over the fact that he's fighting a boxer of that caliber. Anyway, KSI is confirmed to be fighting on a Misfits pay-per-view on DAZN in August, so he's unavailable to fight Jake a month before that in July. KSI and Jake go back and forth on Twitter, and I don't really care to read their pedantic tweets word for word, so I'm just going to give you the cliff notes. Just as a side note, the people who do pick sides between these two and have flame wars on social media as a result are fucking weird. You can like or dislike Jake or KSI, you can have an opinion on them, that's fine. You can even prefer one guy to win over the other in a boxing match. Completely normal. I have UFC fighters and boxers that I want to see win, but it's not like I go on hate campaigns against their opponents. And ultimately, it's sport. Sports is entertainment at the end of the day. You have your side that you root for, you have your guy that you want to see win, but that's really where it ends. The parasocial factions that some users form surrounding KSI and Jake Paul are really stupid. Hating Jake Paul's guts, a person that you haven't met, under the guise of being a KSI fan, and vice versa, is ridiculous. I have no issue with someone being a fan of an athlete, especially someone from your own country or heritage, but it's weird to defend them like you know them personally. Anyway, Jake Paul demands for a fight in February at 200 pounds. KSI's manager sends a contract through for December at 185 pounds, blah blah blah. I cannot believe there's entire fucking videos on YouTube reading these tweets out. It's exhausting. So the date also appears to be a point of disagreement from the two parties, as well as the weight. KSI's team wants the fight to be at 185 pounds, which is bigger than what they ideally wanted in 2023, whereas Team Jake Paul's weight offer is at over 200 pounds. Jake gained a lot of weight and went through a body transformation during his camp from Mike Tyson because the latter is a natural heavyweight. KSI is coming down in weight, I'd imagine, to 175 pounds or maybe even lower for his fight against Amir Khan in August. One of them would be at a disadvantage if they agreed to the other's weight of choice for the fight, but that's not why KSI vs Jake Paul is never happening. The truth is that it's never been about the weights, or the rounds, or the location, or the undercard. It's been about ego. KSI and Jake Paul don't want to give up any ground in the negotiations because they're both stubborn cunts. They both know the magnitude of this fight, and they both hate each other, at least we think, so they don't want to stand down. They know what's at stake, and they both want every advantage they can have, and that means not giving an inch to the other party. Fair enough, to be honest, even if it's at the expense of YouTube fans. KSI and Jake Paul would have never been as successful or the superstars that they are today if they weren't relentless and absolutely stubborn, but it does rob the fans of a mega fight. I sincerely believe nobody's ducking each other, and it is just about letting egos get in the way. Both parties have been guilty of that during the past 6 years or so. Besides that, I feel like the word ducking gets thrown around in the YouTube boxing space specifically way too much, and it's lost all its meaning. Of course, fighters sometimes price themselves out of fights, which is fairly common in traditional boxing. However, KSI and Jake Paul negotiating back and forth and rejecting offers when they don't want to back down on any terms isn't ducking necessarily. It's annoying, and I wish they just made the fucking fight, but I do believe that both parties, KSI and Jake Paul, want to fight in the near future. Another accusation that gets thrown around online is that either KSI or Jake Paul are scared to fight one another. This is ridiculous. They might be both a little anxious to lose, especially after the 6-year build-up of this fight, but not so much to where they wouldn't fight each other at all. I mean, both of them faced Tommy Fury, a real pro boxer. KSI isn't scared of Jake, and vice versa. So in 2024, what's happening with KSI vs Jake Paul? Is it dead in the water? I'd say yes at the moment. Just like the term Tyson Fury vs Anthony Joshua, you could plug KSI vs Jake Paul into Google search, scroll back around 5 years, and you can still find articles saying that they are in talks to fight, or the fight may happen, etc, etc, etc. Like Ariel Helwani said on his show, influencer boxing cannot make the claim that they bring the #1 most fun fights anymore. That title goes to traditional boxing now, after they've come to the party and put on absolute blockbuster fights with Saudi backing, but still. And at this point, I'm not sure if we'll ever see KSI vs Jake Paul get made.